This is part 2 of the traumatization series, and it's called Facing Annihilation. So what is the situation of the little boy now? He has a mother to whom he is attached. He relies on her for security and nourishment and soothing and security and safety. But this mother has turned into a danger. She wants to annihilate him or an aspect of him. She threatens to kill him. She beats him up. She yells at him. She kicks at him. So this is a very dangerous situation. Now the boy has two options. The first option would be to stay with the truth, to stay with his experience, to process reality, to stay in contact with reality. That would mean he would recognize that mother is dangerous and would have to shrink away from her, to run away from her, to flee her. But that would mean he would lose his attachment figure, whom he needs for survival. And that is the tragic within a traumatization experience. Normally, in a non-violent situation, the desire for truth, for processing reality, and the desire for survival enhance and help each other and are aligned with each other. But in a violent situation, you either process reality, but you lose your attachment figure, because a deadly dangerous person cannot be an attachment figure, or you lose reality and you have your attachment figure. And of course, because human beings are programmed to survive, this is what happens. So attachment figure stays, truth has to be attachment figure stays, and the truth has to be sacrificed. And the need for survival takes precedence over the need for truth. So what the boy does is, or no, let's explain the breakdown of the psychic organization is to have a contradiction. Mother is dangerous, mother is safe. That is not solvable. For an adult, it's solvable because he needs not the attachment figure. But for a little child, it's not solvable. This contradiction is unsolvable because he cannot process the reality that the mother is dangerous, because then he loses his attachment figure. And that would threaten survival completely. So that's the breakdown of the psychic organization. And what the boy has to do under pressure, because it's a dangerous situation, he has to create a world model that is consistent. And that, of course, cannot be a true world model. It has to be an ideology. It has to be based on wishful thinking. I want my mother to be safe. I want to run to her for shelter. And so I construct a world model in which the experience that my mother is dangerous has to be detached from, has to be dissociated from, has to be pushed into the unconscious. And that's the price I have to pay in order to survive within a violent situation as a boy, as a child. So that's the traumatization. We see the effects of the removal of the experience from consciousness into unconsciousness, the dissociation, the effects of this in battered women. I've often made the experience that I can talk with battered women about their men, and they can acknowledge that these men are dangerous. But the acknowledgement, the cognitive acknowledgement, does not create the impulse to leave the relationship. Why is that? It is because the women learned as children, when they were violently abused, not to process the reality of the dangerousness of attachment figures. And so they cannot process on an emotional level the dangerousness of their husbands. And that's why the impulse is not coming up to leave the relationship. Although cognitively they can understand what's going on. I want to point out that a traumatization might not technically not occur only through the act of violence. Because if a parent, after the act of violence and after she has calmed down a bit, recognized the pain and confusion she created within her boy and deals with it appropriately and soothes the boy and clears up the confusion, that might be impossible or very hard, but let's say it's possible, then that would not result a traumatization, because the boy would be able to process the reality of the mother. But usually it happens that after the act of violence, the expressions of the children of anguish and of pain and of suffering and of confusion are greeted with hostility. So there is a double violence. First is the violence, and then the expression of the pain is also not allowed, and that seals off the experience of the dangerousness of the parent. Okay, next time we will look into a symptom that results from traumatization in later life, and that's a phobic reaction. That's a very straightforward connection to traumatization, and yeah, that's the next time. Thanks for watching.